Today, Bruno steps into my world as we bring in this massive mega truck for a transfer case upgrade.
Thought you were bringing out the big truck this week.
I didn't know if we could get it in the building or not. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disappoint you. Hey, welcome to TruckU. I'm Matt Steele.
I'm Bruno Massel. You know, I was expecting Matt to bring in one of his rides to have at least some rice and canes to show everybody, but no.
We had to bring one of the little trucks. That way we can maneuver it around a little bit, okay? This is our buddy Toyota James's truck. And actually, we call him Toyota James because of the Toyota body on this. This truck was specifically built for Trucks Gone Wild events. Now, those events are full of trucks like this. Those events can consist of a lot of different things, from mud racing to car crushing, tug of war, the occasional sled pull. You've got to have a truck that can adapt to the circumstances, right?
Absolutely.
That's the name of the game. Now let's take a quick tour of this particular truck. Starts with the tires. That's really the first thing you see. 49 inches tall. These are R4. They're like a loader tire. They're good on tractors. They're really good on trucks too. Now these are good for a V-tread tug of war, which is a tractor tire tug of war. Good for car crushing, and not a bad mud tire
Just
as
an
well.
everyday Sunday.
Just another weekend, you know. King coils all the way around for the suspension. Custom built 4-link design right there. Full roll cage for the driver. That's going to keep him safe. That way if they do tip over, which happens from time to time, he's going to stay right inside there. You got the harnesses, and it's all about safety. And I knew you'd like this, a pretty good little power plant up there in the front.
Yeah, a 468 big block Chevy. You know, that's what should come in every Toyota as far as I'm concerned. Heck with gas mileage. You got the Prius at home.
Right off the showroom floor. It is an available option, there's no doubt. So you've got a good motor, you've got a bulletproof truck, and the body, well, we'll work on that another time.
Not so much.
This truck, as well as a lot of them in the whole mud truck scene, has really evolved a lot over the last couple of years. A lot of the trucks have. And one of the big steps in the evolution of those trucks is right there in the gear reduction.
Now, these are two different transfer cases. Now, this one here, the first one we're talking about, it's from a 1-ton Chevy. Now, it's nice because it's actually somewhat compact, and it's going to give you a 2-to-1 gear reduction. But when you get into bigger trucks like this and more exotic stuff, you're not going to have the right drive shaft angles for one thing. And sometimes the 2-to-1 gear reduction isn't enough.
Right. Then, if you want more gear reduction, you go to this, and you take this big military case right here, and you get that off of those military 6x6s, the same place you're going to get the axles off of.
Your donor truck.
Yeah, you chop these up, and you put it in there, and you make this up. That gives you another 2-to-1 right there. So now you've got 4-to-1, which could be good depending on the tire. You've got no adjustability. That's one of the issues. The other issue is, look at all this mass and all this weight, and you've got to get this up into there, right?
Now, these guys are actually mating these two gear reduction boxes together, front and back, underneath this truck. So when you stretch it all out, you're looking at, well, the back of the transmission is about here.
And so you got to go to about another 4 feet.
There. I mean, that's all transfer case underneath this truck. So you can see it's a bit cumbersome to work with, and you're really limited to what the initial gears that are inside of here. So that's not fun.
Well, it's like you said, with these particular tires, a 2-to-1 gear reduction may not be enough, and a 4-to-1 gear reduction may be a little bit much.
Yep. So out of necessity breeds a little ingenuity, and with these exotic high-end trucks, people are really starting to move forward to something that's a little more specific for their applications.
This is the SCS drop transfer case. It's the next step in the evolution for this truck, and it's a step that a lot of guys with trucks like this are taking as we speak, and they're doing that because there's a lot of advantages to running this drop box.
Now, the obvious, first of all, is the physical dimension. Now, this transfer case will replace all of that you see on the ground over there. That's 1,000 pounds worth of transfer case. This is 90 pounds. That takes up 4 feet. This takes up 13 inches. And you know what? This, believe it or not, is stronger than all of that. So right there, it's kind of a no-brainer.
I know, as a racer, you like the tunability, man.
Yes.
That's the big deal for you. But let's take a look at how this whole thing works, too, while we're talking about this. Okay, here's your input coming in right up on the top. This will spin. Boom, power goes to your drive shafts right there. That's pretty simple.
And what we're looking at here is about a 12.5-inch drop. Now, you can get these in different sizes, different drops, up to, what, 24.5 inches?
Yeah.
You know, and Matt talked a little bit about tunability, and for me, that's what it's all about, being able to tune your vehicle to the track and to the conditions. What it is, you take this back cover off, and you can change gears that quick in about, 15, 20 minutes. With the old stuff, you're stuck with what you've got.
if you've got a truck like this and you're running a Trucks Gone Wild event, for example, let's say there could be multiple events during the course of the day. So early on in the day, you could be faced with a tug-of-war scenario or a sled pull. You want to be able to have the lowest possible gear ratio you can. Then you might have a little bit of time. You might have an hour or so of a break there. You can change your gears because you've got a higher speed mud race coming up later on that afternoon. Well, now, if you can get in here quickly and change your gears and adapt to the different conditions, you've got a huge advantage over the other guys that you're racing against.
Now, there's also another option you can get with one of these, and you have the option of putting it to two-wheel drive as well, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, the two-wheel drive disconnect is great because, one, when you're driving around, the steering's going to be a lot easier when you're not all locked in, and two, you can, like me, you can just drive around and wave and party with everybody. Yeah, I don't want to be jumping the thing. I just want to drive around and have fun. You know, that's what it's all about. You can whip donuts, do burnouts. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do in two-wheel drive. But that being said, I think it's just about time to get this in that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a heck of a beast. You got that?
Yeah, let me get that out of the way and we'll slide that up there nice and easy.
Yeah, that should clear then.
Welcome back to TruckU. The cool thing was when we got all that old stuff out of the way and underneath this truck, it really freed up a lot of room, and that actually opened up some doors to some new opportunities.
Yeah, we brought the truck over to our guys at Chuck's Trucks to do a little fab work for us from time to time, and all they had to do was make a couple mounting brackets here, and our transfer case will fit right into place. Now, once we brought it there, it was cool because he called us up and said, guys, listen, we got about 3 feet of extra space underneath this thing. I got some ideas. I want to put a new four-link system in this thing, and I really think everything can benefit from it. So let me have at it. And wow, man, this is cool.
Hey, when those guys say, let me have at it, we just let them go. And it's always fun to see what they're going to come up with. Now, this is exciting, too. You think about it, the new case, the new suspension, our buddy James's heavy foot. I mean, the possibilities are endless. This goes up nice and easy. Now, take a look at this here. There's those little mounting holes, 4 of them on each side. That's going to mount right up there to the brackets. I mean, you just bolt it in, that baby's locked in, and it's not going anywhere. Now, you got a couple different options. If you've got a big, strong assistant, you know, like
assistant.
Yeah, you're coming around. See, he's learning. Actually, he can hold it up, and then you could just bolt it in. But we're not going to do that. You can also fab up a little thing here for the jack, and that'll hold it into place. But with 2 people, one guy can hold it, one guy can jack it up, and we'll slide it right in.
You know, his assistant's doing all the work. Okay, so now I got this transfer case all mounted in by myself. I need to tighten down these 1410 U-joint style yokes so this way we can get some measurements going.
Another option from SCS as far as the yokes go are these flange style yokes. It's really a matter of more of personal preference than anything else, but if you prefer these, you can get them from SCS. Now, the case is in, truck's ready, looking good, everything's cool, right? But we don't have any drive shafts in it yet, so it's not going to go anywhere. Now, the vast majority of people are just going to call the local driveline company and order up some drive shafts. That's the easiest way to do it. There are some guys out there who are going to build them themselves. That's cool. But keep in mind, whichever way you're going to go, the most important thing is that you get the measurements right.
Yeah, we're going to have to make 3 drive shafts for this thing, so it's even more critical that we do the right measurements. Now, the first one, it's going to be kind of tough to see, but you look up here, you've got the transmission. We go from the trans to our transfer case, and where the first measurement's going to be off of this seal right here. It goes around the output shaft, the drive shaft will slide underneath it. So from there, we want to go to our imaginary center, which is right here on our yoke. Matt, it's a little easier to see over on your side.
Yeah, we can do that up over here. See, there's a couple different ways that you can actually mess this up. If you're just not paying attention or getting a little careless, or the phone rings and you forget something, it happens to the best of us. Don't worry about it. But you can kind of mess this up, and here's how some people might do it. If you take the measurement like from this top corner on the yoke and it's spun up like that, and you accidentally go down to the bottom corner of the flange, your numbers can come back a little bit screwy, and you want to keep them all on the level. So you can turn this, just a nice idea, find your center line right back here. You got that tape measure?
Yeah, right here, bud.
All right, cool, thanks. Now you just going to take your measurement from the center line and come right down to the center on the back side of that flange as well. And if you go middle to middle, you should get your number, and it should be right about where it needs to be. And I like to get them up close to about the closest half inch.
What do you got there?
About 46 and a half.
46 and a half. Oh, one other point that you want to make is make sure you make all these measurements with the truck on the ground with weight sitting on the suspension. A lot of guys will call up and say, hey, to the driveline place, hey, I've got my truck up in the air and I made my measurements for my drive shaft. Well, they're going to be really, really off when you've got the suspension hanging down. I mean, something with this much travel, you could be like a foot off. When you go to put those bad boys on, you're going to be in a whole world of hurting.
This is the slip and stub portion of the drive shaft assembly. So your differential is going to be going up and down, and the drive shaft has to be able to travel with it, and this is going to allow it to do just that. Now, the reason that your measurements are so important is because your drive shaft guys, whoever's going to be making them up, needs to know the distance for your travel right there. So you got about 4 inches right here, right? So you want to split that distance because this is going to have to be able to travel in and out. Now, here's why the measurements are so important. If your drive shafts are too long, boom, that's going to cram up in there, and that's going to break something. If they're too short, then that's going to slip out. You're not going to have any power, and you're going to be jumping out of the truck wondering what's going on. So we lay out our pieces right here, and we actually can get a look at the entire drive shaft assembly. Starts right here with the 1410 U-joint. This is actually coming from the transfer case and going back down there to the differential as we travel. So here's our slip and stub assembly. Now there's arrows right here. You want to make sure you get those lined up. So there's an arrow there and an arrow on the bottom. Always make sure those are lined up. It's always a good idea too, when you come down the shaft, make sure that your weld yoke down here is laying down, as well as this. That keeps everything in phase. Goes back to your U-joint, right to there. That bolts up to the pinion, and that is the whole piece in a nutshell. So we need to keep moving on this. We need to take a break. When we come back, we're going to keep the work going on the big Toyota.
How can I keep my O2 sensor in good working condition? We'll have the answer after the break. How can I keep my O2 sensor in good working condition? Deposits that build up on the O2 sensors cost you dollars at the gas pump. A clean O2 sensor properly monitors the correct fuel-air mixture for optimal fuel mileage. Using ZMAX in your fuel system keeps your O2 sensor working clean and efficient. This tip is brought to you by ZMAX. Performance you can feel.
For those of you that don't know, there's a new section on our website called Ask the Host, where you guys write questions into us, and each week we pick one to answer on the air. Now this week we've got one from Gene in Michigan, who says he actually knows you for some of your events.
Well, I've known Gene for quite some time. He used to have a huge mud truck up there, man. It was awesome. That was fun.
Well, now he's got a new old 70s style Ford pickup that he uses for mudding, of course.
Right.
And he's heard that the new LS Series Chevy engines make a lot of power and do so for a relatively inexpensive price. Do we know anybody who's done this type of conversion?
We know a lot of guys that have done the big Chevy conversion right there. Not necessarily the LS. I mean, this is a perfect example right here. Chevy big block and this. It's a nice combination.
Yeah, the big block, carbureted engines are cheap. They make a lot of power. There's a lot of parts out there. You can go to a boneyard and pretty much put one together. It'll turn these tires. But the LS Series engines are cool. It's the latest technology, the stuff out of the Corvettes, fuel injection. So you want to put a Corvette engine inside your Ford, man, more power to you.
Who doesn't, right?
The problem is it's probably going to cost you a whole lot more than something like this. So it all boils down to your budget. Cheap is relative to anyone, really, what it's going to cost.
Hey, Gene, thanks for writing in, man. We look forward to seeing you and the rest of the crew up there in Michigan real soon. One of the last things we want to do to this truck while we have it here in the shop is actually take a look at where the fuel tank is mounted back there, because currently the way that it is, it's up on these L brackets right there, and it's not being supported anywhere on the frame. All the support is right there on the welds. It's held up real good so far, but think about this. The truck is designed to jump, so if he hits a car stack and goes flying 10 or 12 feet in the air, which he's done, and it comes crashing down, heavy things want to shift around a little bit. You want to make sure they're in there good and secure.
Now, this is a 16-gallon fuel cell, and it fuels about 8 pounds per gallon, so that's over 130 pounds, so it's a lot of weight, and there's no baffles inside of it, so yeah, it's sloshing around inside there. And think about this is the most extreme of conditions, so this thing's really taking a beat, and the last thing you want is to have fuel cell come loose or crack, and the only way you're going to tell is there's a big ball of fire underneath there, which is not good for anyone. So after I got done mounting that transfer case by myself, Matt took a nap, and I went ahead and made some new brackets here. Now what we're going to do is support that weight underneath the fuel cell here. So that'll go in place like this underneath. The fuel cell will actually sit on top of it, and then we'll tie it down.
Yeah, this is actually like a little battery tie down. This will come over the top, and that way it's nice and secure in there, and it's not going to shift around at all.
Yep. All right, so our rear mounting bracket is done. I finished notching this out here, and what we're trying to do is make clearance for the pickup for the fuel cell, which is underneath. So that's out of the way. The other thing I had to do was notch out these holes, and you see I had to egg them out a little bit, but that'll be fine because we're still going to use the mounting bracket we had before, the angle iron. It's still a good piece. We're just kind of adding to it a little bit. So the fuel cell picks up, that slides in place right there. Then we're going to bolt it down on top like it was before. But this is where we add to. We've got our tie-down strap, which goes across the top and keeps us from wanting to lift up in any way. And then we can literally drill and tap these while this thing's in place. A couple holes here, and this should be more than secure. I gotta tell you, I'm pretty excited because Matt's gonna be taking this thing out to one of his events, and I am dying to find out how that gearbox works out. It'll be some pretty cool stuff.
James is back out at the track at the Trucks Gone Wild events doing what he loves to do. Whether it's tearing it up in the hill and hole mud racing or flying over the crush cars, he can do it all now with no worries because these SCS cases have never had a gear failure. Now his particular case goes from 3 1/4 to 1 on the low end and 2 1/2 to 1 on the high end, so he's pretty much set up for all the events with a simple swap of the gears. And with some other optional gears, he can get his low end down to almost 5 to 1. James is hooked up, and this is going to help him steal the show.
Sound control mat is scientifically designed to absorb and dissipate vibration created from the engine, road, and structure of your car or truck. Cover as little as 25% of the area for a noticeable reduction in noise. Just peel and stick. Easy to cut and bend to conform with no prep work. For maximum noise reduction, use the multi-purpose insulation. The 4x6 foot sheet has 3/8-inch sound deadening fiber padding and a highly reflective aluminum bonded on one side for 97% reflective of radiant heat. Multi-purpose insulation also has a number of household uses that will save you on your gas and electric bill. This tip is brought to you by LMC Truck. With over 30,000 truck parts in stock, you can get the right part at the right price right now.
Welcome back to TruckU. You know, in the world of Rhino and side-by-side accessories, the guys at Rhino Parts and Performance have got everything you need.
Now what we're looking at is their gauge and switch panel. It's really nice because it gives you a central location for all those accessories and ways to monitor your vehicle because, let's face it, a lot of people are doing a lot of add-ons. It's a great way to keep at control of everything. Now it comes in a silver finish. You got this brushed silver finish or a black powder coat. You can put 2 or 3 different gauges depending on what your needs are, and your switches can grow. So you can, maybe you start out, you only need 2 and you grow into 4 or 6. Any kind of combination is pretty much available to you. It's going to keep everything in a nice, tight little package.
All the accessories you need for your side-by-sides can be found at Rhino Parts and Performance. Now this big boy is definitely going to get the job done. It's the 10-bank industrial battery tender from Deltran.
Now it's nice because it's having like 10 battery tenders in one. It's got 10 separate 2-amp chargers where all your toys or all your trucks and vehicles can be plugged into one central bank. And it's smart enough to recognize that if one specific vehicle has got a draw coming from it, like you left a light on, it'll adjust and charge it up. Now with any battery tender, this is not only going to maintain your battery, but it's going to charge it to 100% first, then kick into that maintenance mode.
This is like the really big guy in the battery tender family. It's for the guy with a fleet of trucks or, like you said, just a lot of toys. It's the battery tender 10-bank industrial charger from the guys at Deltran. The headlights on your vehicle are something that you can easily overlook, especially over time. If you're not paying attention, they can start turning yellow and this, that, the other thing. But that's an easy problem to fix, and you can do it with this. It's the Blue Magic Headlight Lens Restorer.
Now, a lot of people take the time and effort to replace a bulb when it dies out because a lot of cars today, they have those indicator lights that come on and tell you you've got a low beam failure, high beam failure. And they'll put those bright xenon lights in, but the thing is they don't realize is a lot of times because of the UV rays, etc., the lens itself is either smoked over or yellowed over, and you're really not getting any optical clarity out. So that can be a dangerous thing, whether you're behind the wheel or people all around you, they can't see it coming. The problem is their lenses are really expensive these days, especially on some of the higher end vehicles. A quick, easy way to restore optical clarity, right here.
Yeah, and this is preventative as well. It's going to help prevent that yellowing. It's the Blue Magic Headlight Lens Restorer. Blue Magic, products that perform. Now, speaking of performing, we need to get back in the shop and get some more work done.
Sounds like a plan, buddy.
For more information on anything you've seen on today's show, check out speedtv.com or visit our website at truckutv.com.
Our restoration challenge today is this small block Chevy motor. Now this is going to end up in our buddy's show truck, and it really needs to look good, so we're going to handle some business for him today. Now what we want to do is when you open up the hood, we want everything to come alive. So we've got the engine, the headers, the valve covers. We want to dress them up and really make them pop. The way we're going to do that today, our weapons of choice, if you will, is this line of products from VHT. Now, you might know about VHT. Those are paints that can be used in very high temperature applications. This is the new line right here, the engine metallics, and this is going to look fantastic when it's all done. Another great thing about it is this paint is good for up to 650 degrees. Now, with any paint project, you want to make sure that you prep everything right. So the first thing we did was degrease the motor. We got all that out of the way. Then we taped up everything and covered up any of the openings. So everything is closed up nice and good. Now we'll hit it with some prep spray, get it cleaned up, and then it'll be ready to paint. Now here's a little tip. You could tape off these freeze plugs right here, but after doing the rest of it, you may be tired of taping stuff off, and it's actually kind of tricky to get in there because that's actually sunken in there a little ways. So what you can do is just take a little bit of grease and rub it around in there on the inside, and then once the paint is on there later on, you just wipe it right back out. But when you're doing this, be real careful not to get the grease on anything that you actually want the paint to stick to. Now the next step in our underhood restoration are these nasty valve covers right here. These things were disgusting, but we got them degreased and got all the crud off of it. Now we've still got some loose paint and some dirt and everything else, so we want to get that all cleaned up and out of the way. Once we have it good and clean, we'll be ready to apply the VHT Wrinkle Plus, and this is going to give it a neat wrinkled look right there. So there's a couple steps involved when you're doing it though. Once you've got it all clean, lay on the first coat. A nice coat, not too thick to where it's running, but just a good coat right there. Then let it sit for about 5 minutes or so. Then do a second coat. Let that sit for 5 or 10 minutes. Then do a third. Then put it off to the side somewhere to let it dry. If it's a nice sunny day outside, all the better. And forget about it for at least an hour, because it's not going to wrinkle up right away. It's actually going to take some time. So work on something else, come back to it, and then you can check out the wrinkles. Take a look at this. We're starting to see how this is all coming together, and it's looking fantastic. That's how we handled our restoration challenge here today with 3 products from VHT. We've got the engine metallic right there, the Wrinkle Plus, and the Flame Proof. All underhood applications, all applications for very high heat. So if you need any more information about any kind of products for your restoration challenge, be sure to check out VHT's website.